Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Hello and welcome to Lunch Break Live by Butchery 101. This is a brand new series by Butchery 101, and I'm so excited to have y'all along for the ride. Um, every week, what's going to happen is that I'm going to go live and talk about what's been going on in the meat world, bringing you the meat news of the week. If you're new around these parts, please do take a moment and hit subscribe, and that way you'll never miss a thing. I would love to have you guys on board for the journey moving forward. Oh, and then afterwards, I am going to take a moment to do a little bit of like channel updating for y'all. So if you want to hear more about that after the meet current events, please do join. Okay. Also, FYI, this is in fact the inaugural episode. So I do hope that the audio works and that like all the technical stuff works. And I am still working out the kinks. So please let me know in the comments if anything is awry or if it's not working or if you can't hear anything. I definitely want to know. I also want to know what y'all are wondering about meat and like how your experience with meat in your own life and out there in the wild is working out for you. If I can do anything to help you learn some more. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. This week's article, this week's top story in meat is a perspective piece from the Washington Post. It was written by a gentleman by the name of Kyle Jaster. He runs Atticus Farm, a regenerative farm raising pigs in the Catskills of New York. The title of his piece is Ditching Meat Isn't the Answer for Climate Change. Better Farming Is. And let me just read you the first little bit. And then the subtitle is High-End Restaurants Can Help Support Sustainable Practices. Hi there. Please let me know if you can hear me. I'm trying an external mic just to hopefully to have better audio, but also if it's not actually coming through, let me know. I'm not going to know until I get to watch this afterwards. Okay. So this article is a response to some breaking news in the last couple of weeks of a couple larger institutions making a big deal of going meatless. So that includes 11 Madison Park. For those who don't know, 11 Madison Park is like one of the nicest, quote unquote, nicest restaurants in the United States. It easily tops the charts in terms of like being the most awarded and most applauded restaurants in the country. Definitely, it was definitely idolized by me and my peers when I was a line cook. And in fact, when I was searching for a place, when I was really interested in becoming a chef or at least like continuing my line cook career, one of the things that was recommended to me was to read the 11 Madison Park cookbook, which is absolutely beautiful. And they do have a ton of really cool advice. And yeah, certainly have like a lot to offer. However, they did recently announce that when they reopen after the pandemic, they will be a vegan restaurant. They have taken animal and meat products completely off of the menu. Actually, I should confirm. I'm not sure if they're going to go fully vegan or if it's just that they're not serving like meat protein. I'm not sure if they're like 80/16 dairy as well. So sorry. If you know, please pop it in the comments. But either way, they did declare that they're going meatless moving forward. And then another place, another food institution that recently made an announcement regarding meat was the media company Epicurious, whom I still love. Like I would watch their shows all the time back in the day. and they were like a great alternative to Food Network. But they announced recently, actually it was the same week that 11 Madison Park made their big announcement. They announced that they would no longer be publishing new beef recipes or tutorials or anything like that. Like they will no longer be working with beef in the future. Both companies have cited environmentalism and climate change as being like a motivating factor as to why they made these alterations to their programs. And I respect that a lot. Like I do appreciate when businesses are like taking climate change seriously and wanting to do what they can to help out, like, you know, the rest of us not have like an apocalyptic future. And like hopefully take responsibility for their role in what's going on in the world. But I do have a couple gripes with the way that they're going about it. Specifically because a lot having to do with the lack of nuance in what they're doing, and how making big announcements like this, again, with no nuance, demonizes meat without examining the agricultural systems at large. And I can go a little bit more into that in just a little bit, but I wanted to read y'all. I wanted to just like touch base with my notes to make sure that I was telling y'all everything that was going on. And something else that this article happened to mention was 11 Madison Park and Epicurious did their thing a couple weeks ago. But last year, another 3 Michelin starred chef, Dominique Crenn, who I adore, and obviously as a woman chef, I'm like, yes, go for it, girl. But her restaurant also went meatless a little over a year ago, apparently. And alternative meats like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat, all that stuff is like blowing up these days. Like you can get an Impossible Burger, I think at like Burger King. Tyson Chicken is also trying to get into the alternative meats game. I guess Beyond Meat signed deals with both Subway and KFC. By the way, this article is available on Washington Post. And if you're not subscribed to them, I highly recommend. And hopefully in the future, full disclosure, I do plan on having like a little bit of a giveaway later on. If you wanted to try to see like whether or not you like being subscribed to the Washington Post, I have a couple 30-day memberships that we can give away from this channel. So I don't really know how the contest is going to go later, but I do want to let y'all know that that's something that I have kind of like bubbling away back here, and that no matter what goes on with the rest of the contest, being subscribed to Butchery 101, which is free, will be one of the requirements for winning a free month subscription to Washington Post. Stay tuned in the future for more details on that. But okay, so back to why going meatless as a food company isn't necessarily the awesome, sustainable move that they want to make it out to be. So the rest of the article brings up some really great points. Like I love that this farmer was who they brought on to write this opinion or this perspective piece, because he obviously knows a lot about sustainability and the way that like livestock plays into carbon sequestration, and how industrial operations are super damaging, and truly monoculture is really what we need to like move away from. So yeah, the rest of the article is really great. There's tons of good information in there, and I highly recommend. So yeah, the trouble, hang on, I'm getting parched. Okay, so it seems like when somebody says, oh, I'm going meatless for the environment, it seems like a really good idea. And so I totally get it, because it sounds really peppy, and it's like a really good soundbite, and it's like a really quick way to communicate something that you care about the environment and that you want to you want your food choices to help. I get it. There's also a thing about like non-cruelty, which is like also bullshit when you're talking about the difference in industrial food production. But the trouble is that none of these companies, as far as I know, I've done a little bit of research into like what all of their official statements have been. For sure, 11 Madison Park and Epicurious, between the two of them, neither of them have made an official statement, even acknowledging the type of food production industrial systems that they do or do not support. All they have said is that they're not going to use meat. And the trouble is that like meat gets a really bad rap, and like, yes, industrially produced meat is terrible for the environment. Industrial beef especially, is absolutely terrible for the environment. So I get it. I get why they're not trying to say that stuff. But the thing about industrial meat is that the headline is getting a little bit muddy out there, in that oftentimes people are talking about like the methane emissions from cows, which like every ruminant will emit a little bit or a certain amount of methane. And I get that that's just how their digestive systems work. And methane, of course, is like a greenhouse gas that's more potent than carbon dioxide in terms of trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere. Totally, I get it. But the thing about that is that, yes, all cows do that. It's burps, by the way, not farts. So like heads up on that one. But the thing about the true industrial meat carbon footprint is that a lot of it is wrapped up in the production and not just like the biology of a cow. So there's a lot of like water that has to be pumped all around the country in order to, like, irrigation is like a big thing that takes up a lot of fossil fuels. Growing the feed crops like peas, soy, and corn in monoculture like row crops, that takes a ton of energy and input, not just in like, I mean, it costs a lot to like run the tractors and like, bring the water out to these fields for irrigation. But it also takes a lot of fossil fuel to fertilize them. Sorry, one sec. So the thing about monocultures is that they deplete the soil of its natural nutrients. And so in order to replenish those nutrients, especially the way that monocultures work, because it's just you grow soy in one field until that soil can no longer grow anything. And the soy the soy plants have deposited their own nutrients into the soil, or like their share of nutrients in the soil. Like you could do it in a more sustainable fashion if you were to like alternate soy with like rice or wheat, or like do a crop rotation, but that doesn't exist in industrial monocultures. And so when you only grow soy in a certain plot for like however many years, or only grow corn or wheat or peas, or almonds for that matter, it depletes the soil and doesn't give back enough to the soil, give back enough fertility to the soil for that to be a long-term production method. And so to counter that, farmers, mostly in industrial settings, but like also in like other settings too, will purchase synthetic fertilizer, or even if it's like quote unquote naturally derived fertilizer. So many of those production methods still require fossil fuels. So keep that in mind when you're shopping, when you're thinking about like the sustainability factor. Okay, so that is to say there are a lot of unsustainable inputs that go into row crops like soy, corn, and wheat and peas that have nothing to do with the meat. Those are the same crops that are getting turned into the alternative meats that companies like Epicurious are still down to use. So again, when these companies are saying like, oh, we're going meatless, or like, we're not going to do beef anymore, they're still using the same food system that is problematic. They're still using the same carbon footprint. You're missing out on like water and like the methane that livestock may or may not be emitting. Oh, and shipping these goods, like the fertilizers, like the crops, across the country in our like ever globalized system, that also takes a ton of fossil fuels and like contributes to the carbon footprint of these products. Sorry, that was kind of convoluted. Again, this is the first episode, but a cursory look at it, both Epicurious and 11 Madison Park revealed to me that neither of them have acknowledged the flaws in that system, and I feel like that's a huge misstep on their parts to demonize meat in this way and not acknowledge the standards of food production that they are going to be supporting. The other thing about livestock, this is one thing that livestock has head and shoulders above like alternative meats or even going meatless, is that depending on how livestock is managed as in like what their living situation is like what fields they hang out in, and like how you take care of the land around those animals. Livestock actually have huge potential to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. There's a lot of information by like the Savory Institute on this stuff, and I super highly recommend that stuff. If you're watching this live, I can't add a link to this description just yet, but if you're watching the recording of this, hopefully I will have linked the Savory Institute down below, so that you can find them as a resource to help inform your decisions moving forward with whether or not you are impressed with the moves made by Epicurious and 11 Madison Park. By the way, I just want to like say for the record that like if you don't want to eat meat, and that's like your own personal choice that like you and your family have decided, I totally support that. I think that's like totally cool. I certainly don't eat everything. But my problem with the way that 11 Madison Park and Epicurious and other companies are going about this is that they are abusing their own platforms and being kind of irresponsible with the responsibility that they have as leaders in the industry, which like maybe they shouldn't be leaders in the industry if they can't figure this stuff out. I think that might actually be like what I'm pointing out. It's that like, I mean, why are we looking to fine dining to be the standard by which we overhaul our food industry to help battle climate change? Like, well, there's so much to fine dining that like isn't disclosed to the rest of us, and if they were, you would know that those are things that like you cannot pull off in your own home kitchen, and therefore like those methods, those avenues towards sustainability are not accessible to the vast majority of Americans and like world citizens. So for example, the article that I mentioned earlier that's called Ditching Meat Isn't the Answer for Climate Change, Better Farming Is, from the Washington Post, by a farmer who does regenerative agriculture outside of New York. In the article, he points out Blue Hill or Stone Barns at Blue Hill as an example of like a fine dining institution restaurant. Excuse me, I'm drinking bubbly water. My bad. As a fine dining institution that includes meat in their in on their menu, and uses it as like as a tool towards sustainability, which I do applaud that. Certainly, um, livestock will contribute to the most sustainable small farm situation that you can possibly have. Again, because of the the potential for sequestering carbon, but then also just like the way that like physically the animals will like interact with the land and then also fertilize it themselves, um, and distribute it. Like it's kind of amazing the way that regenerative agriculture works. The trouble with idolizing and following a place like uh, Stone Barns or Blue Hill as an example, or rather as a model for sustainability moving forward, is that they super do not disclose all of the inputs that they have and all of the resources that they have available to them in order to make this work. So, for example, uh, they capitalize heavily on a ton of free labor. So a lot of their farm workers are interns, unpaid interns. A lot of their kitchen staff are unpaid interns. And that is like across the board. Standard practice for especially fine dining places. Recently, we've heard about the Willows Inn in on Lummi Island in Washington, and I just want to like point out that that's the same system that if you read the New York Times article about the Willows Inn on Lummi Island from about a week ago, it's the same system that Blue Hill and 11 Madison Park capitalize on, in that they are willing to utilize free labor to uh, to pick through all of like these like irregular crops and like harvest down just to like the nicest possible version of their raw product. It's free labor. Secondly, they sell their product at these like really astronomical prices, which like I get that they have to make margins. Restaurant margins are super thin, but that's extremely inaccessible to the vast majority of us. Like it dawned on me that like we use the phrase the 1% to refer to the 1% of Americans who own like 90% of all the wealth. And those systems might be accessible to them, but they are not accessible to literally the 99, let's say 97% of Americans who cannot afford to eat that way. So it's not a good example. It doesn't scale. And then finally, this is the one that I learned recently that it really killed the myth of the sustainable fine dining institution with its own little farm or whatever. When I found out that Blue Hill at Stone Barns, that entire institution, like led by Dan Barber, based in upstate New York, and then also like I think they have a restaurant in Manhattan. All of that was funded by the Rockefeller family. Like this is oh my God, I don't remember his first name. John Rockefeller. This is his money getting spent by his family posthumously as a philanthropist in a way to like greenwash his name, which by the way, he built on like during the Industrial Revolution on crude oil. And so, I mean, do y'all have like oil baron money backing you up? Because if you do, then yeah, feel free to have at the Stone Barns model and see if you can make that like farm to table thing work for you. But for the rest of us who aren't privy to oil baron philanthropy money, which like my opinion on philanthropy is like also Not awesome. Just in the interest of full disclosure, it's definitely like a way for billionaires to like justify their money, the hoarding of their money anyway. So yeah, so this article does bring up Blue Hill Barnes, and at some point I was also like a Dan Barber acolyte. And then yeah, but then you learn about like where the money comes from and these inputs that are not scalable or sustainable for the rest of us. And it pokes so many holes in the myth. And I'm like, climate change is happening. Like we need real solutions that are scalable and accessible like now. And those guys are not showing us the way to do that. So yeah. I think that's all I wanted to ramble on. Sorry, I'm just going to check my notes real quick to make sure that I have everything. I said everything that I want to say. I promise I'm not just like on Instagram right now. Although if you're on lunch break, like you're probably also on Instagram, so whatever. Yeah. So the point about money and where it comes from and whether or not you have investors, I just think it's important for us to like differentiate between methods that are scalable and like accessible to more people and will therefore be more effective for us moving forward, and that don't alienate like poor people or brown people or Black people or like immigrants in the way that this like high-end fine dining way does exclude us all. Because by and large, those demographics that I mentioned are the ones who are going to be more greatly and more severely affected by climate change. It's the same as like the way that the pandemic has disproportionately affected people of lesser means and of historically marginalized status in the United States versus wealthy people who can afford to not work, who can afford to like get the vaccine or like buy or have insurance even to like have a respirator. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do is draw a through line between what we've seen happen during this pandemic and how those attempts to like use like top down trickle down like economics to try to save ourselves from like a huge disaster is not going to work. And the people who are in charge right now, like, and who are supposed leaders in the food industry, are not making awesome decisions. I do have hope. Oh my gosh, I'm going to end this on like a nice note. I do have hope that maybe this commentary will reach those people and like maybe they will have seen this article in Washington Post, so that hopefully we don't end up in a system that like actually is just more of the same. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that this information will help you better navigate your eating and like seeing the meat news in the world. I'll try to be a little bit more organized next time, but like hopefully the point got across today. Yeah, so that's it for current events for today's lunch break. And then before I go, I did want to mention a few things about what's going to happen with the channel moving forward. I'm gonna try to do this live stream every Tuesday around lunchtime for the West Coast of the United States, Pacific Standard Time. So usually that's going to be like 11:30 or a little bit later. We'll go for anywhere between half an hour to an hour, depending on how much material I have and how much like y'all are interested. And I would love for this to even be like a discussion about what y'all have seen and like how you feel about what it is that we're talking about. Because the whole point of this channel is to help everybody be more informed about the meat and food industries so that we can all make better decisions. Because, to quote Maya Angelou, I believe So he said this, when you know better, you do better. So yeah, hopefully that'll be helpful. I will still have long form videos coming out on Fridays. I believe is going to be my new upload schedule. Is every Tuesday will be live streams that are accessible after the fact. It'll be best if you do it live because they're really topical and very timely topics that we'll be talking about during live streams. And then on Fridays, I'll be uploading videos that are a little bit more evergreen. So for example, this Friday, I'll be uploading a video about rabbits. It'll be similar to this, where I'm just telling you guys about rabbit meat and just answering like a lot of the weird questions that I saw out there about rabbit that I think could help you be more adventurous and like enjoy this like really wonderful, nutritious meat that is not very popular in the United States, unfortunately. Yeah, and so 2 videos per week, and then also I'll be doing shorts and TikToks and reels still on Instagram, maybe 2 or 3 of those per week. So I would love if you haven't already subscribed, if you wouldn't mind just popping in on and just clicking on subscribe and like maybe hitting a like and then commenting whatever questions you have so that I can make sure to tailor this information to be as useful as possible to you as I can. So yeah, thank you again so much. This has been Lunch Break Live by Butchery 101. I'm Christina Glenoga, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye.